Hey there, State of Fluxers. It's been a while. This is Matt with a top 10 review of the best episodes of Season 5 of Smallville. I promised this episode literally a couple months ago. It's been a while, but I finally got around to doing this because, life gets in the way sometimes. That said, I'm going to hit you with the 10 best episodes of Smallville Season 5, which was the best season of the show to that point. And even offer you an honorable mention. That first honorable mention goes to the episode Oracle. Oracle is an interesting episode in which Brainiac is guising himself as Jonathan Kent, trying to manipulate Clark into killing Lionel Luthor. That element and all the twisted use of Jonathan Kent is really what makes the episode work, as well as the fact that Lex is being juiced by Zod, a forthcoming villain in the show and later in the season. It's a neat episode that really, its big detractor is it has really, really poor pacing. That being said, it's worth an honorable mention and worth your time checking out. But for the number 10 spot, we have the episode Fragile. Fragile is a neat episode directed by Tom Welling, and it actually proves that he has some pretty strong chops as a director. It follows a young girl named Maddie who is orphaned and then taken in as foster care under the Kents. And she has wicked powers as well, and as the two learn to grow and hone their powers and learn from each other, we really get to see a different nurturing side to Clark, one that foreshadows his involvement both this season and in future seasons as the established leader of a group of super beings. He has gone from being the learner, as he has so often been in the first half of this show, to becoming the nurturer, as he suggested in Run. That was the name of the episode. The Barry Allen or Bart Allen story, and it's carried on here, and you'll hear this a couple of times on the list. In the number 9 spot, we have Vengeance. Vengeance is the follow-up episode to the 100th. It's the 101st episode. And when you're following greatness, it's often something of a come-down. And for sure, this is a come-down from that exquisite 100th episode. But this one I think gets an unfair rap because I do think it's quite good. Clark meets a girl who is out doing vigilante justice and taking matters into her own hands. However, she's going about things the wrong way. However, there is a wickedness and an anger in Clark over the loss of his father that is brought to the surface here, and Clark really needs to decide and hone who he is and what his morals are. And this is an episode where that is tested quite nicely. But really what makes this episode a must-watch is that final scene where Clark and Martha finally get a chance to openly grieve at the loss of Jonathan Kent, something that has been pulled away from you the whole episode. You're left angered at his loss, as Clark is, and angered with him that nobody is grieving as they should be, until it's finally let out in the moment of greatness at the end of this episode. I really like this episode. In my number 8 spot, we have Fanatic. Fanatic is a weirdly timely, relevant episode about a girl who, a woman who is such a fan of Lex Luthor and what he believes in that she switches the cross on her chest to that of Lex and takes on his ideology as her own belief structure, which leads her into committing or trying to commit a heinous act of assassination. This is a timely, incredibly timely, to this day episode that seems to just be becoming more and more timely as we move on. It's a good episode, it's a hard episode. It starts with a really bad opening sequence to the point where you think you're going to be watching a clunker, but it's actually quite a good episode. In the number 7 spot, we have Vessel. Vessel, if memory serves, is the season finale of season 5. And it's weird that it's so far down on this list, because usually the finale episodes are quite a bit higher, but this one is a good episode and a good finale to the season, wherein Lex gets taken over by Zod. He is the Vessel. Also in this episode is Brainiac, who is spreading his virus across the globe. So Clark not only has to find a way to stop Zod from breaking loose, but stop Brainiac from spreading and destroying the globe. There's a wicked moment at the end of this that suggests a Chloe Superman kind of relationship for the 600th time this series, but it's an effective one, and this cliffhanger is pretty good, especially since Clark is left in the Phantom Zone. Bum, bum, bum. We'll explore that in Season 6. You stay tuned. But moving on to the number 6 spot, we have Aqua. We get to meet AC. Aquaman Arthur Curry visits Smallville in an effort to rescue some aquatic life that Lex is responsible for destroying. Along the way, AC starts a relationship with Lois, who understood the assignment when she put on that bathing suit and got out of the water, which they show repeatedly in the opening credits for like many seasons forward. That being said, Arthur Curry is actually made quite likable in this show. This was at a time when people were like, let's make fun of Aquaman, he's lame, isn't he? And they did a pretty decent job of making him not lame. That said, his weakness that's shown in this episode does seem kind of lame. However, with that, you also get Lex, who's leaning in to how villainous he will become. You're seeing these shades being drawn darker and darker with his character, and Michael Rosenbaum is there to deliver it. Also, here you see Clark continuing to nurture and guide the heroes around him that he meets into paths that are not quite as destructive, and that works. We'll have more to say about Aquaman next season, but until we do, let's move on to number 5, Arrival, which was the season premiere of season 5, where we get to meet Lois in that great opening scene, but also you get a soft sort of setup or redo of Superman 2, where a couple of Kryptonians escape and are wreaking havoc in Smallville. It's up to Superman to stop them as they're going around and wreaking havoc around the city, including with Lex, who is still kind of pitted with and or against Lana, as seen at the end of the previous season. But it finally does come down to this showdown between Clark and the two Kryptonians, and you get some great Superman action as they are sent to the Phantom Zone, and I loved it. Visually aesthetic, the visual aesthetic is pleasing, and we find out that Clark learns from Chloe that she knows his power, and suddenly those two become a team and friendship, and Chloe is utilized fairly well throughout the rest of the series that she is in. And it's this part moving forward where I really take a liking to Chloe. There is also a neat hint at Brainiac at the end. You finally get to see Brainiac, and bum bum bum, Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel has come onto this show to be the Brainiac, and it's pretty cool. In the number 4 spot, we have Solitude. Solitude is a neat episode where Milton Fine tries to convince Clark that his father, Jor-El, was actually sending him here to conquer Earth, something that we've seen recently in the Superman movie. This was first explored here, folks. Anyway, I think it actually may have been explored in the comics briefly, but it's firmly explored in this series in several different ways, and here's one of the more interesting parts where Milton Fine tries to convince Clark that his father was, nefarious. And does so by infecting Martha with a disease that will take her life. And because of Clark's not being able to return to the Fortress of Solitude before sundown, and a convoluted plot point in the first episode of the season, he learns that somebody will die. And so he thinks this is it, and he's not prepared to lose his mom. Meanwhile, Clark learns that Milton Fine is actually Brainiac, and was, yes, of Kryptonian nature, but he was there to conquer and destroy it as well, and is looking to break free Zod. And this is the first steps towards that whole Zod storyline that they will make good on by season's end. This is a really cool episode with a great final battle and conclusion between Superman and Clark. Superman and Clark and Brainiac is really quite cool. In the number 3 spot, we have Splinter. Splinter gives us a silver kryptonite that infects and drives mad Clark, and Milton Fine is the one that tries to reach into Clark's psyche and keep him grounded by revealing that he is of Kryptonian nature himself, but as a trusted ally. This is a really gripping episode and good use of kryptonite. Sometimes these kryptonite storylines aren't always put to good use. This is one of the better ones. I really quite liked it. Number 2, we have 1 and 2 really could be a toss-up, because certain days I'll land one way or the other, but number 2 I'm going with Lexmas. Lexmas is the most important episode for guiding Lex into who he will eventually become, because we are shown in a sort of It's a Wonderful Life kind of twisted version of that story. Lex is shot in the beginning and lay dying. And along that path, he is shown his life if it had gone a little bit different. And in this different life, he is happily married to Lana with kids. Clark is his best friend. Sure, he's estranged from his dad, but he has the normal, grounded life that he's always wanted of the Kents. And both Kents, Jonathan and Martha, treat him as if he were a son. It is a beautiful what-if scenario for Lex that turns dark when Lex learns that in this would-be reality, Lana dies in childbirth, and wanting nothing to do with that, Lex gives it all up, all of it, so that he can ensure that Lana can live. But in order to do that, he has to do some pretty dark, dangerous, and terrible things. So it's this pivotal moment of goodness of Lex that brings out the worst of Lex later on. It's pretty great. Along this same story, same lines in this episode, we have Clark, who's kind of losing faith with the various people around him, and he meets a man on the top of one of the buildings who is dressed in a Santa suit, and it looks like he's giving up, just as Clark had, and he's contemplating suicide, right? So Clark has to ground this Santa, and Santa has to ground Clark. Now, is this the real Santa, or is this just a man dressed as Santa for the holidays? The episode plays a little coy with that, but it's a really neat episode, and probably the most saccharine part of the story, but it all works, and I love it. This is one of my favorite episodes of the series, full stop. But if I have to give a best of Season 5, it has to go to Reckoning. Reckoning is the 100th episode of the show, and a damn masterpiece. In it, this story opens with Clark finally telling Lana the truth about who he is and proposing to her in the Fortress of Solitude by crushing a piece of coal and handing her a diamond that he puts on her finger. He then takes Lana home, breaks the good news to everybody in the moment that Jonathan Kent wins the Senate race. But all of this means that Lex lost the race and Lana goes to comfort him. However, in Lex's drunkenness, he comes on to Lana, especially after the events of Lexmas. This is something he feels he shouldn't have done. She goes and runs. He chases after her. Lana dies horribly in a car crash. Clark goes back and wishes her death away, but Jor-El says it doesn't matter who dies, somebody has to die because of this choice that Clark made in the first episode of the season. And losing Lana might not be the worst, because who knows who's going to die next. He then relives the day, lets Lana down, ruining that relationship pretty much forever this season. And then the events play out almost identically. Jonathan wins, Lex gets sad, Lana goes. Clark is able to stop the car from crashing, but he's not able to stop the ticking time bomb that is Jonathan Kent's fragile heart, and Jonathan Kent dies. Would he have died anyway? And we just didn't know or didn't watch long enough or get to see long enough to find out that he was always supposed to die? We'll never know. But this is the episode where Jonathan Kent dies. It's moving, it's haunting, it's a great episode, and one of the best episodes of this series. Let me know what you think the top 10 episodes of this season are in the commentary down below, and let me know what you thought of my picks. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.